Please note, this video may be unsuitable for those with photosensitive epilepsy. And for those few who watched it originally, please note you may find certain scenes have been deleted, edited or retweaked due to problems when the original version was published on YouTube. Hello and welcome to this brand new YouTube exclusive series called How to Play Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm your host Andy Mossop, and in honour of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Game's 25th anniversary, I'm going to teach you how to play the world's most popular trading card game according to the Guinness Book of World Records. In each new episode, I'll be covering a different aspect of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game, accumulating in a ultimate duel-off at the end of the series to put everything all together. Now, different aspects of this program was first broadcast live on the dating app Badoo, but this is the full-scale version of it for anybody who didn't watch it. To open the series, we'll just be covering the basics of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game in its episode, with more to come in the future, including the objective of the game, how to reduce your opponent's life points from 8,000 to 0, and the different types of cards you can use to get the objective and win the game. Let's get on with our first episode. So, as you can see, for this section, you join me in an undisclosed forest outside the village of Frizzington in the Cumbrian Lake District of England, here in the United Kingdom. And if I just come a bit closer over there, i.e. find somewhere to sit down, I can go into a bit more detail on what the game actually is. Over here will suffice. So if I just move a bit closer, and there we go. And in the last 25 years, mainly since 2002, there has been many different ways to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Which are not restricted to the official and a trading card game, which you see in my hands. More recently, there has been titles such as the recently launched Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duels, which follows the same format as in real life, launched on all great devices in last year. The mobile app Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links, which has been available to Western audiences since 2016 and uses a format called Speed Duels, best suited for newer players to the franchise. Yu-Gi-Oh! Cross Duels, which allows players and fans of the anime to play as their favourite character or as themselves in 4-on-4 duels known as tag team duels in real life. The difference with cross duels is whereas tag team duels is 2-on-2, this is free for all. And many, many more. Having debuted in Japan in the official card game in 1996, it's no wonder that the trading card game is a lot younger than what many players would have you believe. Regardless, and having launched to the back of success of the hit children's anime of the same name, about a boy who inherits a Millennium Puzzle.
Millennium Puzzle safe?
Now we each have 200 life points left.
It's no surprise that in the years since, both in and outside of Asia, i.e. worldwide, Yu-Gi-Oh! Has become a hit phenomenon, rivaling the likes of Pokemon, which is slightly older than its rival counterpart. Although rules differ between versions, in real life, each player starts with a hand of 5 cards from a deck of no less than 40 and no more than 60, each with various subtypes of cards containing various sub-subtypes of cards of their own. Monster cards with various types, attributes, levels, attack and defense points documented in a later video, which will help you achieve your objective of a 0 life point victory. Spell cards, which have various helpful resources to the turn player, such as drawing cards from the deck infamously, enhancing the abilities of monster cards already out in the field, and becoming a very disadvantage to the opponent by giving extra abilities to certain cards. And trap cards, which can stop your opponent from giving them the advantage in a duel. It's important to note though that no two cards in the official and trading card game are alike, unless you've got the highest amount of free copies allowed in one deck at a time. And because of this, different types of cards have various impacts on the overall flow of gameplay. For this episode, for simplicity reasons, I'm going to look into the various aspects of spell and trap cards, to which there are a total of 9 subcategories. Before I can do that, however, I need to show you, viewer, how the game field looks like and how it works. And to do that, I need to go home. So as you can see, this is how the Yu-Gi-Oh game board looks. You can typically play the game without a mat, as long as you know where each zone goes to. Also note that this mat is slightly outdated to what Yu-Gi-Oh looks in today's world, because it hasn't got the addition of the extra monster zones at the top, which is used underneath another mat. But the format is more or less the same. You have 5 monster zones, which can be placed either face up in attack or face down defense position, or in face up defense position when summoned. More information about in the later episode. You've got the graveyard, the main deck where all your cards, with some exceptions, go. A spell and trap card, 5 of them. These 2 now generally typically belong to pendulum monsters, a special kind of monster type which we'll cover in another later episode as always, which can be used as main monsters or as spell cards. But if the spell card is in a spell card zone, either face up or face down, you cannot place a pendulum monster as a spell card unless 1 or 2 of the zones used. You've also got an extra deck and a field zone. But because we haven't covered the different types of cards yet, if I fold this up like that and push this up like that, so that it covers the extra deck, the extra monster zone, you have a format that looks just like that. In the olden times, there was no such thing as a field zone, because field zones generally belong in the spell and trap card zones. But as times changed, the field zone got its dedicated place next to the fusion deck, which is now extra monster zone and has been since the launch of Synchro Monsters back in 2008. We'll cover all that in a later date. Now, at the start of each game, as I mentioned at the top of this episode, each player in Yu-Gi-Oh starts the game with 5 cards in the hand. It's worth noting though that the player who goes first cannot draw or attack on their first turn. We'll cover that at a later date. So now that you know where to place the cards during gameplay, it's time to return to the main focus of this episode, the different types of spells and trap cards available in a game of Yu-Gi-Oh!
The Magic Card Monster Reborn.
Thank you, Pharaoh Yugi. So, to begin with, we're going to cover the spell card categories, and the first of those categories is normal spell. Normal spells don't generally have a lasting impact on gameplay, as they are sent to the graveyard immediately upon being used, but they can be somewhat of a nuisance, especially if they have fusion. Oppositely to normal spells, we have continuous spells. Like continuous traps, which we'll cover shortly, continuous spells stay on the field until they're destroyed by an effect either in yours and or your opponent's possession. Continuous spells have lasting impacts on gameplay, such as boosting monsters' attack, drawing specific archetypes from your deck, or special summoning from your graveyard when certain conditions are met. Quick play spells are unique to other spell card types, since they can be activated at any time during your turn or your opponent's turn, as long as they're set face down during your turns only. Equip spells are like continuous spells and traps, except they belong onto monster types and give them special abilities, most commonly attack and defense boost. Field spell cards belong in the field spell card zone and give both the monster and players abilities that aren't ordinarily possible in gameplay. And finally, we have ritual spells, which are simply used to ritual summon blue ritual monsters from the hand or deck. Trap cards follow the same format as the spell card counterparts, except only in 3 categories: normal, continuous and counter, but must be set face down at all times. in the same zone as Pendulum and Spell card before being activated following the opponent's turn. So with all that in mind, we now reach the end of the first part of the brand new series. But before we go away, it's time to recap what we've just learnt. First off, we know that the TCG version of the card game was inspired from the back of the success of the 2001 same-titled children's anime, which spanned for 5 seasons up until 2006. The cards come in 3 different types, with monster, spell and trap. Covered where the different types of cards go on the game field. And earlier we covered the different types of spells and traps in huge detail. Unfortunately, that's all we've got time for in this episode. But tune in next time as we cover the basics of monster cards and explain how Yu-Gi-Oh has evolved over the years. If you like what you see, click the link below to subscribe or give me a like. And I will see you again in 2 weeks from the date that this version, republished from the original audio issues, was published. I've been Andy Mossad, and this was How to Play Yu-Gi-Oh! Bye for now.